My name is Marissa, and this past summer I was fortunate enough to go on a volunteer abroad trip to Madrid, Spain through IVHQ. My program was 2 weeks long, and I signed up to work with individuals with special needs, although I didn't know exactly what placement I would have until I arrived in Madrid. Once I was in Madrid, I found out that I would be working in Causas Rivas with adults with mental disorders. The adults we were working with were between the ages of 40 and 60, and most of them had schizophrenia. All 10 of them lived in an apartment paid for by a nonprofit organization that IVHQ had teamed up with to bring volunteers to help out. In the apartment, a volunteer from the NPO would come every day to help them with cooking, cleaning, and other chores around the house. They would also take them all out to get some exercise and fresh air. They would often go to the market or to the doctor's office or any other local areas they could walk to. As volunteers, our main job was to keep them company. We played board games and card games with them, and we taught them some English, and as you can see from the picture, we played basketball with them too. They were all super sweet and caring people, and they really seemed to enjoy having us there with them. Most of them do not have family and do not get any visitors, so it was really good for them to have time with us and get some outside contact with people other than each other every day. This leads me to my first major take-home message I learned when I was there. I found that even the little things can have a big impact on someone's life, and just being there for someone can really help them when they're in need. Even though we weren't doing anything that would really seem to impact their lives in any major way, it's the little things that we were able to do with them and the quality time we were able to spend with them that really made it a good experience, not only for the adults we were volunteering with, but for ourselves as well. Apart from that, I also think that it's important to realize that you shouldn't judge people by their appearance or what you hear about them, because you never know what someone's really like if you don't give them a chance. In this case, when I arrived in Madrid and found out that I would be working with adults with schizophrenia, I wasn't really sure how to feel about it. When you hear the word schizophrenia, you automatically think of those scary voices they may be hearing. But then when I got to know them, it really showed me that it isn't fair to judge someone solely off of what you hear. Many of them I wouldn't even have known that they were affected by schizophrenia if I hadn't been told. I think this also really relates to the importance of mental health and the lack of awareness we have in America and other places around the world concerning mental health. I feel that it's really important to realize that you can't just shy away from it, and it's because so many people do shy away from talking about mental health that there's such a big misunderstanding of what mental disorders really are and how they can affect people. This brings me to talk a little bit more about the most impactful experiences of my trip. The experience as a whole was very special for me, not only because of all the beautiful sights I was able to see while I was in Spain, but also because I was able to do something meaningful while I was abroad. Volunteering with IVHQ was an incredible experience, and I feel like I learned so much about myself and about what's really important to me, which is helping people. In preparation for the trip, I was mainly excited for the travel aspects, but looking back, it was the volunteering that made a much bigger impact on me. Even aside from the volunteering itself, living in the IVHQ house with 25 other volunteers who all were there to try to make a difference in the world was really inspiring. These people I was living with and became so close with came from all over the world, everyone with a different story and a different reason to be there, and yet everyone was there to do some good in the world and have some fun at the same time. Another impactful experience of my trip had to do with the housing and placement areas where we were. Because they were both in very rural areas, we were able to see what it's like outside of the city in quieter, less wealthy areas. This was really important because it showed us what life is like outside the big city. Most people who go abroad generally stay in the more touristy areas, but I feel like staying where we did, we were able to see more of what Madrid is really like. I think one of the most important things I learned while I was abroad that I could bring home with me was that you need to treat people the way they want to or expect to be treated in their culture. There are a lot of differences between different cultures in terms of personal space, touch, eye contact, and more, and I think it's important, especially in the healthcare field, to be aware of these differences and to respect other cultures' views and values. I think that having a global perspective is very important in this nature because different cultures do things differently, and that's totally okay. It's just really important that you realize that the way it is in your part of the world isn't how it's going to be everywhere you go or with everyone you meet. So you need to be ready for that and be tolerant of other people's views and lifestyles. This brings me to some of the specific differences I noticed between Spain and the US. In terms of healthcare, Spain has a more socialistic health system with a single-payer healthcare system that offers universal coverage as a constitutionally guaranteed right. We saw the impact of this in our volunteer program because the adults we were working with would not be able to afford the care they need were it not for this type of healthcare system. They're able to go to clinics and doctor's office visits with little to no out-of-pocket costs, which is absolutely necessary in order for them to be able to keep control over their mental health. A few other fun differences I noticed between Spain and the US included how late people stay out, because in Spain it's not uncommon for you to see people out eating dinner at 10 o'clock at night and little kids playing in the park at midnight, whereas in the US you would very rarely ever see anything like that. In terms of food, in Spain, people eat different kinds of foods, such as tapas, which are shareable appetizers, and it's not uncommon for you to go to a bar and order a drink and also to be served food for free. Also, we were in Madrid during the World Pride Festival, and I noticed that at least during the time that we were there, people were very free with expressing themselves and were very open about who they are. We also noticed that in Madrid, people are more comfortable with less personal space and are very affectionate with one another. They don't mind bumping into you if you're passing each other by on the sidewalk, whereas in the US, personal space is valued very highly. Also, if you're meeting someone, they may kiss you on both cheeks rather than shaking hands as you would see in the US. I found these differences between Spain and the US to be really fun ways of learning more about the culture there. As I said earlier, I think it's important to be culturally aware, and instead of turning your nose up to these differences, it's important to embrace them and immerse yourself in the culture and its values and traditions. Overall, my trip to Spain was a really great experience, and I will take these memories with me throughout the rest of my life. I feel so lucky to have been able to do something like this during this stage of my life.